Hi there guys, my name's Cody, and today the video you're going to be watching is an interview I did with Lauren from the YouTube page Living Well with Schizophrenia. You may remember my previous video with Lauren where we talked about anosognosia. In this video we're going to talk specifically about living with psychosis and raising a child. Specifically, I wanted to talk to Lauren more about what it was like living with schizophrenia and also raising children. A lot of people who watch my page also know that my mother is diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. So I too was raised by someone who was on the schizophrenia spectrum. And there was a lot of aspects of her having a mental illness that made day-to-day living, especially with raising children, much more difficult. And so I wanted to figure out how Lauren and her spouse went about parenting while struggling with a serious mental illness. Just a reminder for you guys, this video is sponsored by Dope, an edible cookie dough company with an awesome product but an even better mission. A portion of every purchased product from Dope goes to help support addiction and mental health awareness efforts. And because I know a lot of parents are watching this video, you guys have earned some cookie dough. So make sure you guys use code DOPEHIPPIE for $5 off your first purchase. But I was really excited to do this interview with Lauren and learn more about her perspective as a person living with a schizophrenia-related illness who is also a parent. Let's check it out. All right, I am so excited to have Lauren rejoining us here today on the Schizophrenic Hippie YouTube channel. And today we are going to talk to Lauren about parenting with schizophrenia. And so, Lauren, I want to thank you so much for joining. For those of you who don't know, Lauren runs the YouTube channel Living Well with Schizophrenia, an amazing page if you want to learn more about schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. Lauren, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Cody.
So, as me and you have talked about, this is a really important video for me. I was actually raised by a mother who has schizoaffective disorder. And so talking about parenting is something that I will never understand what it's like having this mental illness and raising children. And so I really appreciate being able to talk to you. I know we're also going to mention your spouse, Rob, as well. So thank you both for allowing me to ask you some questions involving parenting and living with a mental illness.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for sharing.
So the first question I have for you is, how do you balance self-care and then caring for another human being? Because living with this illness is already so difficult, and prioritizing self-care is something I know you talk about and you practice. How do you balance both your mental illness and being a parent?
It's hard. And it has been a very long learning curve to figure out how to balance that. And I think I'm still learning. I think I'm going to be learning for the rest of my life in terms of, balancing that. But I think where I've kind of come down on for the time being is that if I want to be able to give as much as possible to my kids and be able to take as good of care as I can of them, it's important to first be taking care of myself. And so I think that's a really hard thing for a parent to wrap their head around, that sometimes they're going to need to put themselves first ahead of their kids. That's hard because you want to just be constantly giving to your kids and giving them everything you have. And so understanding and having to shift the mind frame into, well, in order to do that, I need to be well. And so I need to be taking care of myself and giving myself space for that and building in space in our lives and our daily routines and whatnot to take care of myself so that I can take care of our 3 kids too. It's been a learning process and it's been hard, but yeah, that's important to understand.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way to look at it, because you always hear you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's essentially what that is. And that's so powerful because, you being a parent and you and Rob having to, not only navigate this illness, but navigate being a parent, which alone, I am not a parent. I am just an uncle. And so I know when I babysit, that's enough for a day or two, but it's not like you guys get a break. You have to constantly be parents despite your illness. And part of being someone with schizoaffective disorder is you also struggle with bipolar, which is a mood disorder. How does having a mood disorder on top of dealing with schizophrenia symptoms affect your ability to how how does it affect the way you navigate being a parent? Because mood disorders are so complicated. I am fortunate I haven't had to struggle with one. Do you find there's certain things you have to do that other parents wouldn't have to do?
Yeah, it can be really hard. Well, actually, I think my kids probably really like it when I'm experiencing like hypomania or mania because I'm on their level in terms of
Yeah.
energy wise. But the depression is hard to deal with. Um, it's really hard when you just don't feel that you have the capacity or energy or will sometimes to engage with your kids and to take care of everyone in your household, which is something that people who are struggling with depression often face. And so, that's a really, really hard thing. And I think that I'm so, so grateful to have a partner, Rob, who can kind of help me navigate that and kind of pick up the slack when I am not feeling well. And, I think we really approach parenting as a team sport, like when he's struggling, I can pick it up sometimes. And likewise, of course, when I'm struggling, he can pick it up. And so I think that that's been a really important component of navigating my illness in terms of parenting.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. My mother, when she was raising us, unfortunately was a single mom, and so we had to watch her go through all of the symptoms because she couldn't step away, she couldn't take a break. And so how important is it for you to have Rob, and for vice versa for Rob to have you there? Because like you said, it's about you guys working as a team, and unfortunately some of the parents watching this may not have that ability. um, do you guys feel like that it's beneficial for both of you to be there, and do you feel like it helps alleviate some of that additional stress of being a parent with mental illness?
Yeah, I admire your mom and all people who are single parents, especially struggling with an illness like schizophrenia so much. Like, I'm not sure people who don't have kids really understand how incredible that is, that they can manage their illness and raise children. Like, I admire them so much. But, like, I think it's really important for me doing it with Rob because, like I said, we can kind of work off each other in terms of our different capacities, particularly my varying capacities. And I think that that's been really beneficial for me. And also, not even just, the component of picking up slack, but I think just having someone in my life who sees me basically all the time. We're kind of codependent and we never leave each other. That's another story. But having someone who can see me going through different periods and aspects of my illness and kind of reflect back to me and be able to like help me understand what's happening, help me work through it, I think is really, really beneficial as well. And just kind of another component that helps me have the capacity to look after myself and look after our children.
Do you work on education with your children about mental illness? Is this something that you work on? Is it something that you plan on doing in the future? Because I know it's something that was really beneficial to me growing up. Was I had someone there to talk to me about what they were going through and what I could potentially go through myself.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear from you about how your mom navigated that in terms of providing education. But I think what we're doing is they know I just say schizophrenia because schizoaffective is like not many people know it. And that's an extra layer for them to wrap their little heads around. But
Yeah.
I think we started with talking about how everyone has mental health. And
Yeah.
mental health is really just taking care of your brain, of which everyone has a brain, and making sure they had like that base level understanding of what mental health is and that it's really important for everyone to take care of it no matter what. And then we kind of moved on into saying, okay, well, mom, me, I have mental illness. So that just means that my brain sometimes is sick and sometimes it works a little bit differently, and that I take medication and do various things to help me manage that. And so that's kind of what their understanding is right now. They don't know specifically what schizophrenia is because I think they're still a little bit too young to really understand that. But, they know that we have a YouTube channel about about schizophrenia, and they're starting to like explore YouTube now. They're getting to that age. And so we probably need to go a little bit more in depth into what schizophrenia is before they find all our videos. But
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're at right now in terms of talking with them. But yeah, I do think that education is so important, and making sure they understand, you know, what my illness means, and making sure that they understand that there is open communication. They can come to us about anything they may be feeling or experiencing in relation to it.
So one of the difficult things my mom had to go through as someone with schizoaffective disorder was watching her son develop the illness. Are you ever concerned? I know one of the reasons I decided not to have kids was because of my schizophrenia, and because there is a slight genetic disposition to people developing the illness. Is that something you think about frequently? Is it something that impacts the way you raise your children?
Yeah, that was a really hard thing to grapple with in terms of making the choice to have kids. And I think for a long time in my life, I had actually decided that I didn't want to have kids, basically for that reason. But you know, and I'm very fortunate because my two oldest kids are not biologically mine. They're from my partner's previous relationship. I still view them as completely my kids, but there's not that biological component. So I don't really need to worry about that with them.
Yeah.
And becoming a mom with them kind of made me understand parenthood as more than just the negative things we pass down to our kids. Because you know what? Everyone does. Everyone has some sort of genetic predisposition or whatever that they pass down to their kids. And so maybe it's not the end of the world. And maybe if my child was, so our third child is biologically mine. So maybe if he does end up developing schizophrenia, I would be a really good person to help guide him through it. And, you know, he would have tools at his disposal to hopefully avoid all of the horrible, messy things that I went through and a lot of people go through when they don't understand what's happening and they don't have resources and supports. And hopefully I would be able to help make that process a lot smoother and a lot more positive, I guess. I think I read that when a mother has it and the father doesn't, the chance of their child inheriting it is around 13%.
Yeah.
And so that is a lot higher than I would ever like for it to be. But at the same time, I don't think it's as high as many people assume it is. I think people assume, oh, they have a 50-50 chance of getting a schizophrenia spectrum illness. And that's just not the case. And so, you know, again, understanding how much just beauty and joy and fulfillment I got from becoming a mom to our two oldest kids made me just be like, it's worth it. You know, it's worth it to have a biological child of my own and to grow our family further. And yeah, that's kind of where we landed.
Well, that is amazing. And I do think that your son is very lucky to have you. Like I said, I was raised by a mother with schizoaffective disorder, and she always helped educate me about it. And when I did start to show symptoms, she was the first one there to help me get the help I needed. So obviously, like you said, hopefully it's something he never has to go through. But if he does, he's very lucky to have someone like you in his life. And you and Rob are going to be an amazing resource, whether or not he struggles with schizophrenia or any other mental illness. And so I want to thank you for talking to me about this. I know it can be challenging to be a parent. I know it can be challenging to talk about schizophrenia in general. And I'll never know what it's like to have to be a parent with schizophrenia, but you guys give me so much hope for all of my followers who reach out to me and say, I am a parent with schizophrenia. I'm so frightened. What kind of resources are there? And they want people to be able to look into and understand more about parenting with a mental illness. And so I'm very excited to be able to post this video and show you as a resource, as someone who understands mental illness, but also has been a parent. And both you and Rob, I really appreciate letting me dig into your life a little bit here, because it's got to be kind of challenging to talk about these things.
It is. And, you know, I think something else that I want to kind of put out there is that everyone, regardless of mental health status or whatnot, has challenges in life and has, obstacles to overcome. And I think especially around parenting, there's a bit of a taboo around sharing things that you struggle with and sharing maybe, I don't want to say deficits, that's not the right word, but challenges that you face in regards to parenting, because there's this weird pressure to be a perfect parent. And the reality is that no one is a perfect parent. Everyone has things that they face. And so if you're facing schizophrenia, you're not alone in facing challenges in parenting. No one, I can make this statement very confidently, no one finds parenting easy. And so if you are struggling, it's okay. Reach out for support, get educated. There is help out there to get through it. And it's okay if you are having a hard time, you can get through it.
Thank you so much for that. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people who struggle with mental illness that are also parents that are going to watch this video and feel so much better about raising their child and taking care of themselves. Before we go, do you have any tips or resources for people watching this video who, like you, are a parent struggling with mental illness?
Yeah, I've been trying to find more like child level books about mental illness. We found one particularly on schizophrenia that was okay, but looking for resources that are at your kids' level to kind of facilitate discussions and conversations about mental health and about your mental illness and whatnot is really, really helpful. And so, yeah, just kind of looking for tools and opportunities to start conversations and to open the door for open communication with your child about mental illness and what you're experiencing and what they may be experiencing, making it a two-way deal.
Absolutely. Once again, I do want to thank you and also Rob for allowing me to ask you about what it's like being a parent living with mental illness. Did you have any final words for anyone that might be watching this?
I mean, I admire you so much if you're a parent, regardless of your mental health status. And if you are also dealing with schizophrenia, amazing. You're doing amazing. Your children are so lucky to have you. And yeah, keep going.
Well, again, thank you, Lauren. As always, it's such a pleasure to talk to you and learn about mental health, schizophrenia. For those of you who don't follow Lauren, be sure to check out their YouTube channel, Living Well with Schizophrenia.
Thanks, Cody.